Hello, 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 friends. Bear with me while we try to get everyone up and running at the same time. Do we still have sound? We do not. Do we now? Barely. All right, hello, friends. My name is Dan, and this is Daily Art Adventure number 899. Woohoo, really? 899. And my clapper's broken, but it still works. All right. So this is my second broadcast today. And let me tell you right up front, I'm broadcasting on YouTube and Facebook with separate cameras and separate controllers. So you Facebook people, if your feed ends up being jerky or whatever, just hang up and get over to YouTube and do YouTube Dan Nelson. You can find me. All right? Glad to have you with me. So I started, whoops, we just lost Facebook. That's what I was afraid of. Hello, Bill Reeves. We'll see if it comes back. We'll see if we can get Facebook back on board. If it proves to be too much trouble, we will abandon ship. All right. As I said, Facebook, we just had our... All right, let me tell you what's going on. I'm doing 2 paintings today. This is one of them. And I want to demonstrate, I've already done a whole bunch of work with this simple little device called a proportional divider. This is a very inexpensive plastic one, and where you put the fulcrum determines, what your proportions are. So for instance, if your photograph is really tiny and your painting is much larger, you might put the fulcrum way down here so that the distance between his 2 eyes, we just lost Facebook again. The distance between the 2 eyes would be much larger than what I'm doing here. But for this painting, I determined that the fulcrum is that hole right there. So you might wonder, well, why is that painting so ugly? Well, it's because it's in the middle of being worked on, that's why. Many times they go through very, very, very ugly stages before they come out beautiful. So I actually already used, and Facebook, I know, Facebook, again, if you want to go over for a better feed, go over to YouTube. I'm sorry about the bad stuff. I already did Paul here, and then after him, I did Nancy. And then after I did Nancy, I realized that Paul was wrong. I mentioned very briefly this morning, early this afternoon, that doing 2 faces in a portrait is exponentially more difficult than doing, and we lost Facebook again, but YouTube, I'll keep going. Doing 2 is much more difficult because they have to be in correct proportion to each other. See, when you're doing 1 portrait, it can creep a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, and it doesn't matter. But if you have 2 faces, they can't creep. Anyway, neither one of them can be a creep. There you go. All right, and I'm using, this is acrylic so far, and this is very unconventional. I'm using a pencil. But if you know my regular painting, then that's no surprise to you because I do a lot of unconventional things. One of the main things is I use these pencils that remain visible in my finished paintings. If you want to see, go to dannelsonart.com and click on paintings. Look at my cityscapes, oil and acrylic cityscapes, and you'll see lots of pencil. All right. So I did Nancy, and then as you can see, Paul ghosted in here. You can still see him? And I just painted him over with a translucent so I can still kind of see what was there. But I'm redrawing him. Hello, Ryan Fox. Put the pressure on me. And again, my apologies to you Facebook people. I'm not sure. Last week my internet was working beautifully for you Facebook people, and today it's terrible. Last week, Facebook friends, streaming was great. Now it sounds like it's terrible. So if you want a better feed, go over to... all right, so here's how it works. And as you can see, I've already done quite a bit of work on Paul. And you compare the narrow end of the dividers and holding it very carefully so that it doesn't budge. All right, that looks good. Now let's do the... I've got a couple other tricks up my sleeve to show you. What should I do next? I'll show you one of my other tricks. Again, my apologies to Facebook people who keep leaving. This is a very simple device, very, very, very simple, that I invented and built myself. It's a piece of thick plexiglass. The fact that it's thick is important. You could use thin, but it wouldn't work as well. And I don't know if you can see it, but a couple years ago, a couple years ago, I very carefully etched some super fine lines in this. They're just vertical and horizontal, or vertical, horizontal, whichever you want. That's all it is. Now, part of the genius of this device is that when you have both horizontal and vertical lines, it's very easy for the human eye to discern perfect straightness. Whereas if it's only one or the other, it's hard for the human eye to discern perfect levelness. Does that make sense? So it turns out this device helps with a number of things. Not only can you gauge when it's perfectly vertical, which is good for, let's see, let's take the inside corner of Paul's eye, lines up with the outer edge of the central bubble of, oh good, and I've already got a line there, so that confirms. Let's look at his other eye. Oh yeah, it just lines up just a tiny bit beyond the, ooh, now that's a little bit off. So either my mouth, I've got his mouth drawn. Let's double check his mouth then. So either I've got his mouth drawn too short, well, it could come as a 1/16 of an inch, but that's not very much. One of the things I want to show you is this is a, what's the word? Fussy. It's not the word I'm looking for, but this is a very fussy business. Hello, all you friends on YouTube. Thanks for joining me. Okay, and let me give you, just for those of you who need to leave at any time, but you want to know how to use this, here's one of the most important things to do, is try to establish somewhere in your photograph and in your painting a single reference point that you trust and against which you measure many other things. So in my case, the measure point is the inside corner of Nancy's left eye, or the eye that we see on her right, okay? So that right there, so this right here. So let's check then the distance from that point to Paul's far eye. Okay, now this will only work if I can hold the proportional divider at the right angle. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, and that looks pretty close. I mean, maybe, again, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. So forgive me here just a second. I'm going to do some judging by eye. Okay, so several things I want you to know. Just because you use a mechanical device like this doesn't mean you can throw out your brain or your eyes. You still have to make judgment. This does not guarantee drawing perfection. I mean, I suppose if you're doing something huge and you had like a atomic sensitive proportional divider. But as you can see, this is a pretty blunt instrument, right? I mean, the points here are not razor sharp. They do make better ones, by the way, but I don't have one. All right, so let's see. What else can I check here? Because I'm hesitant about, well, I'm gonna go with it. Let me go back to this device for a minute, because besides helping me accurately discern horizontals and verticals, I can also line this up at a particular angle, and because of its squareness, because of its all 90s, I'm more likely to keep the proper angle. So what I'm doing now is the top of his eyebrows. Now all I'm doing is the angle of his eyebrows. I'm not doing where they are. So that's just angle. Let's go then from my anchor point, I'll call it that today, the inside corner of Nancy's eye, to the peak of Paul's left eyebrow, the one that we see on his right. Okay, from there to there is right there. Now I'm going to double check that. Let's do from the middle of Paul's mouth to the end of Paul's left eyebrow. Wow, it comes all the way over there. Is that true? Well, let's double check over here. Let's look at the end of his eyebrow is right in the middle of his mouth. Wow. Okay, so at that point, my intuition, my drawing intuition, would have been way off. I would have had the end of his eyebrow coming probably a quarter inch to our right. And again, that's, by the way, yeah, of course, you understand, don't you? This is just one way to do a portrait, and it's only one way to mechanically check a portrait. There are many ways. Good grief. Now I'm doing my anchor point to the edge of his eyebrow. Let's see where that takes us. There's something grossly mistaken with my measurements. Oh, there we go, there we go, there we go. Whew, had me worried for a second there. Now let's do from the corner of his mouth to the middle of his eyebrow. You can see, I hope now, why I didn't broadcast a whole bunch of this that I've already done this afternoon, because it's extremely tedious. That's the word I'm looking for. Tedious. Can anybody say tedious? Tedious. This is it. Now I'm just drawing by seat of my pants, so to speak. Let's find out now how long. So this I'm going to be doing this for a while. And again, once again, this is only one mechanical way for checking a portrait. I'm not saying this is the best way by any means. I'm doing this partly just to show you guys one of the ways. All right, and it's the way I'm doing this one. I'm not even sure that I'll do the other portrait that I'm working on today, that I'll do it the same way. One of the things that I do not like about these cheap proportional dividers is just what you see. You have to, and I put tape on here to make them tighter than when they come from the factory, so to speak. Anyway, so there you go. These are cheap and worth every darn penny of their cheapness. Got it? So it's kind of like you're not getting a stellar recommendation from me for this particular tool. It almost takes more skill to use the tool, than it does just to draw the dang thing, draw the dang portrait from by the seat of your pants. That's not quite true, but it's pretty close. So there's, according to that, there's the top of his head. The narrowest part of his head, let's measure from the corner of eye. So I'm not going to keep this broadcast going too long because, again, it's just too dang tedious. I mean, I'm just driving you guys nuts already. I can just tell it. This is just too, it looks horrible, doesn't it? I should probably finish out something here so that I'm not just creeping you guys out by having to look at this you know, those eyes are just creepy. So let's just do some drawing again by the seat of my pants, so to speak. This is going to be an oil painting when I'm done, and right now I'm working in acrylics, and right now I'm working in a pencil, even worse than acrylics. I'm working in a pencil, very unconventional. This is not, but as you can see, I've discovered that making corrections in pencil is a good shorthand, quick way to get the job done. I could do this, and have done it many times in the past, make all these corrections in. Now that does not look right to me. Does it look right to you? It might just be me. Hang on just a second, that's too dark. I want it dark, I don't want it that dark. Let's darken some of this in and see if some of what I'm experiencing is just optical illusion. Oh, there's tons of optical illusions when you're doing portraits, tons and tons and tons. Most of what you think are your mistakes are actually not your mistakes. It's optical illusion that is your mistake. But this still looks awful to me, I gotta tell you. It looks like his eyes are just way too low, doesn't it? Does it look that way to you? Let's measure that again. Let's measure that again. Good grief. So there you go. Welcome to the crazy world of trying to use proportional dividers. I'm looking more like a bad artist using the tool than I was when I wasn't using the tool. That just looks horrible. And I'm dropping all kinds of devices on the floor here. Now, as I said, boy, I'm teaching all kinds more than I wanted to. Many times, what you think is the problem is not. It's something else is the problem. And that may very well be the case right here. That what is bothering me, or what I think is off, is not. So I'm just mixing up some flesh tone here so I can get rid of some of the extraneous marks that we're seeing here. He still looks awful to me. Okay, by the way, I said this earlier. You know, I'm a little irritated right now, honestly, at how this looks. But it's not in this kind of experience that I'm having right now. It's like, oh my goodness, this looks terrible, is not that uncommon. And so you just keep pushing and processing. And now sometimes, of course, the wisest thing is to put it down and come back later, of course, with fresh eyes. And I'll do that if I need to. But it's a good chance for me to tell some of you early journey painters that what I'm experiencing right here is not that unusual. Now, I've had moments like this several times, I would say, not often, but several times when I'm painting at weddings, when I'm really going through an ugly stage. And that is a little bit, because there, you know, the bride's mom, who by this time has had a little bit more to drink than she could have, you know, and she, forgive me, I'm being really nasty now, she waddles over. And she's the closest she's ever been to a real artist is Bob Ross on TV. And she has a little moment of freak out because we've never had anybody freak out when it was all done. I never had. But I'm freaking out more than anybody right now. This tool is called a proportional divider. Yeah, everybody's going to eat supper. That's right. Okay, so I'm going to abandon the tools for a minute, and I'm just going to draw again by the seat of my pants, because sometimes it's better to just some of the, again, I can't stress this enough. In fact, when you guys online, or when the bride's mother, who's had a little bit too much to drink, when you walk up and say, oh, it's his blank, and I want to talk to you, my fellow artists, here for a minute, because I feel that way myself sometimes. I'm going, oh, it's his blank, his head, cheek, nose, mouth, name it, body part. And I've learned from my own experience, and I'm a better artist than most of the people who are walking by, I've learned from my own experience that about 50% of the time I'm wrong. It's not what I think at first, it's something else. And about 97% of the time, when a artist who's a non-artist, it's almost always wrong. Now that doesn't mean you guys aren't welcome, and many of you are artists. Doesn't mean you're not welcome to weigh in. But I just want to tell you, as you already know, you regulars know, I take everything you say with a grain of salt. Would be misleading, more like a block of salt. I go, maybe. Now, and of course you do have some advantage because you're seeing with fresh eyes. We've talked about that a whole bunch on this channel. Again, so I'm not saying that to discourage anyone from making those comments, but if you're an artist, you need to know, first of all, that your own initial guesses are often incorrect. What you think is the problem is not the problem. It's something very different from what you think. And that's even more true when somebody else is making the suggestions. I mean, when a non-artist is making it, doesn't that look horrible? No, see, sometimes it's a shading issue, sometimes it's a color or value issue, or all over the map. And golly, I've done a lot of portraits live online with you guys. Go back a couple weeks ago, and frankly, this is probably the most, stressing moment I've had in live portrait painting. But if nothing else, it's instructive for the rest of you, say, because you young painters are inclined to think, oh, I thought I was the only one that had that problem. I mean, it's not just me. Nope, it's not just you. And again, I'm not. There are people out there. Forgive me. You've heard me say so many. The old Chinese guys in Manhattan who can run circles around me, and everybody else, frankly. And while I'm here, what looks like making a huge mess, I'll tell one of my other favorite stories to redeem myself a little bit. I'm not the only one who screws up. I saw one of the biggest names in the world in portraiture screw up right in front of me. It's a long story. Won't go into it. It wasn't just my opinion. He made a mistake, and he didn't correct it either. Maybe it wasn't worth correcting. I don't know. That's not not my job. And he's still way good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing him like, no good. No, he's way better than me. But the encouraging thing for me was like, oh, wow. Even Mr. Amazing Painter, even he made some mistakes. There was, of course, some encouragement in that for me. So maybe I'm just here today to be an encouragement to you. You should have seen Dan Nelson, man. He really screwed up. But Paul, he is looking a little bit better, by the way. As as you can see, I threw out the proportional divider for a while. I'll come back to it. If I need to, unless all of a sudden I just stumble on a perfect likeness of Paul, which doesn't look like that's going to happen at the moment. I will employ, and again, I'll be working on this for the next couple days. I will employ other, even more precise cheating techniques. I'll go ahead and tell you what probably the one I've been using lately to great effect is, again, in case you missed the broadcast, I'll go up to my computer upstairs in Photoshop, and with a little bit of hit and miss, hunt and peck, I'll print out a print of the photograph exactly these sizes, okay? Then, and I've tried doing all kinds of things with the photographs, you know, overlaying them in Photoshop, and no. Here's the best thing I've found, is then take a piece of clear acetate and a Sharpie marker on a photograph, do you understand? And trace on the Sharpie. So it takes several minutes to be as careful as you want, and trace the photograph. And then I've got a piece of clear acetate, and I'll lay it on here, and instantly I'll say, oh man, this line needs to move up, down, left, right, and so on and so forth. So that's the trick that I've been really, that's been my go-to in the last couple of weeks, and it's a fairly new one for me. I didn't ever use that before a couple weeks ago. So it's very, very possible that I'll do that again. But there are a number of other, and I every once in a while I try to show you guys other ways. Did I use the word cheat a while ago? Sorry, I've been trying to wean myself off the use of that word. Photomechanical tricks for accomplishing. And all I want to do here in the acrylic stage, remember this is going to be an oil painting. All I want to do in the acrylic stage is get close, but I'm not close enough. So I would not want to move. I don't usually go quite to this degree. And all the things that are wrong with Nancy here are fine details. So she's close enough. I will still use tricks to double check all of her dimensions. No, forget this. Sorry. I don't know if you're watching Nancy or Paul, whatever. Paul is one of those men. I watch. Hello, Zoran Jidrav. And I seem to have lost my live chat. So let me try to open that up again. Huh. Okay. Maybe nobody said anything for 20 minutes. Anyway, what was I going to say to Paul? Yeah, Paul's one of these handsome guys who has a nice, heavy beard. Am I right, Paul? So you're the envy of all the other guys in 10th grade because you had to shave. Seriously, I only shaved for the, what's the word? What's the word? You know, for pretend. Status. Oh yeah, sure, I shaved, yeah. I didn't really start shaving till I was a freshman in college. Right, top of the ear. I can do this part though. And let's do the width of the ear then. Hello. Ooh, that's good. It's, you know, it's always so good when you see a mistake. Some of you might think, oh, no, that's bad when you see a mistake. No, 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 no. It's always really exciting when you find a mistake. Oh, see, I had that. Oh, I'm not sure it goes in that quite that far, but that's all right. I'll leave it for now. Anyway, oh, now it looks like he's just got a huge chin, which is because we're missing a whole bunch of details here that subdivide his chin, if you will. So let me do some of those again. All right, he's getting close. So there you go. All of that was a scary lesson in how to use a proportional divider, and at the same time how a tool, any tool, gridding, same thing. Every tool has it is not a panacea. It's it has its downside. So I don't have a perfect likeness here at all, and I think his eyes are too big, blah blah blah. But I think I'm finally close enough on him that I can make the corrections that need to be made in oil. And I do a lot of corrections in oil, typically. I said earlier today that this acrylic underneath and oil on top, and of course that's how I do pretty much all my paintings, but it is how I do my wedding paintings. Of course, in my wedding paintings, the heads are 1 inch high, which, believe it or not, is even more difficult. I thought this would be easy here, doing heads this size, but I've been duly put in my place this afternoon. I want to do one of the challenging things about acrylics is they don't dry the same color that you put them on. They get lighter or darker as they dry. Typically, they get darker as they dry. So you can't, kind of like Elmer's glue. They have the Elmer's glue properties about them to some degree. Oh, and I hope you can catch me, you know, later in the week. I won't be painting probably tomorrow. I'll probably take the day off tomorrow. I've been working very hard this week, even though I haven't been broadcasting. Let me do a little bit more on Paul's mouth before we go. I hope I can, you artists in particular, I hope I can show you couple of my favorite tricks for getting the color right. Right now, I'm not worrying about color very much at all. I hope you can see that. I'm just spitballing. It's plenty good enough right now. That's all I care about. Is just getting close. I'll get the color much more precise. In fact, I really prefer to have the color in the underpainting to be shifted from accurate, because that means that my oil layer, my colors of oil that I do on top of this will have a richness, a complexity about them that they wouldn't have if I nailed the color here. Now, I know that sounds kind of weird, so I'm sort of trying to get as close as I can, just without busting anything. Does that make sense? Without having a cow, so to speak. I'm trying to get close, but by no means am I trying to get perfect. That'll come later. I will absolutely try to get perfect later on, and again, I hope you get a chance for me to show you how I do that. There's several ways. One of my favorites is a trick that I learned from Mark Carder with a D. I talk about him a lot. He doesn't know me, but he's a very good teacher on YouTube. And I think I've watched all his, well, of all his videos up till a couple years ago. I haven't followed everyone since then, but at the time I watched every single thing that he had online. Very generous teacher. I appreciate that. Mostly. Speaking of not being generous, I'm about to start a program that will cost you guys money. It's called Online Artist Forum, and there's a flyer, if you will, a single page description on my community page of YouTube, my YouTube community page. And it basically will entail you all send me your painting, send me a photograph, not your painting, send me a picture of your painting. I will print it out, and then we all have a Zoom call, and I will give, I hope, helpful suggestions, and I will print your painting out on canvas if it's a painting, or on watercolor paper, and I'll actually paint on. That is so weird. It just does not look like him. I'm gonna do another painting by the drawing by the seat of my pants. I feel like his mouth needs to move to the left a little bit. All right, have I tortured you enough? Probably I have. Way too much something white of the eye over here showing. Let me see if I can fix that a little bit. All right, again, probably close enough, just close enough for acrylics. Again, which is my normal objective. Just get close in acrylics. And some of you could say, well, why don't you go all the way with acrylics? Well, because acrylics are a pain in the neck to paint with, that's why. Oils are so much easier, friendlier, more forgiving, more malleable. And again, my heart always goes out to you early journey painters who think that acrylics are easy and oils are hard. And the reason, I don't want to burst your bubble, but the reason you think that is because water comes out of your tap. That's what's really operating on you there. And you're afraid of like paint thinner or something like that. Well, we don't use paint thinner in oil paint. We do use various things for cleaning the brushes, but paint thinner is not one of them. Hang on. Let's do a quick check. His head looks way too narrow to me. Let's double right here, see if I can. Oh yeah, not way, but a little bit. I mean, it looks way, but according to that measurement, it's just off by about 1/8 of an inch. Of course, that's enough to make a difference. As all you, my fellow portrait painters, you all know, 1/8 of an inch is enough to ruin a likeness. And it still feels to me, so I'm going to double check this, guys, after the camera's off, and don't have the pressure of you guys watching. It still feels to me like his eyes are too low on this head. Eyebrows. Oh yeah, well, something's wrong there. That's encouraging, because I know that sounds strange. How could that be encouraging? Let's do this again. Okay, now maybe, oh, I have his head too high, don't I? Nancy and Paula are watching, and they say, what? His head's not that big. All right, there we go. So there's a correction. It's always good news when you find a mistake. I said that earlier. It really is true. No, I'm not sure I'm supposed to cut down a hole that much, but I'm kind of whacking stuff right now, if you can tell. This is whack-a-paint instead of whack-a-mole. Whoa! This brush is too wet. I shouldn't be painting with such a wet brush. Whoops. What am I doing? I'm trying to lose the top of the head completely so that I can measure more carefully and come back and draw it in the right place. That is so strange. Why do I have the illusion that eye is too low? Anyway, as I said, this is too tedious to keep broadcasting. See, the measurement comes out exactly right. Let's try from the bottom of it. So it's maybe something else. It's from the top of his lip to the bottom of his nose. Nope, that's right. So once again, if the measurement is right, then that means something else is wrong. And this is so common that the sense that I have that his eyes are too low, something else is impacting me. Let's check the width of his mouth. His mouth looks too narrow to me right now, but this says it's exactly right. Okay, so this is where I need to stop painting. Stop working on this painting, go do something else, come back, because it's very likely that when I see this with fresh eyes, I'll recognize very quickly what's wrong with it. Because the principle is, or not the principle, the affliction is portrait blindness. By the way, I'm just taking a guess here. I'm not sure that I'm right with these lines. And sorry, here I say I'm going to quit, and I keep fiddling. Hello. Oh, hello, Larry McGarr. I was working on your painting earlier today. Did you catch me? And I would do it now, but I'm ready for supper, so I'm not going to. But Larry, I will be here. Hang on just a second. Anybody else wants to see it? I haven't done any, proportional divider work on. Larry, tell me their names if you don't mind. I'd like to call them by their names. And I look forward to getting back to that painting. All right, I'm gonna stop here. Thank you for your kind attention and company. And I'm gonna have a nice Saturday evening. Hello, Ralph. You might be right, Ralph. You might be right. I will double check all of those things. Yep. Maybe. Anyway, never mind. I can't quit, can I? All right. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'm just going to leave bad enough alone and bid you a fond adieu. I probably won't be broadcasting tomorrow unless I do music. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do that out in the driveway. We do driveway church sometimes around here during the season. Good. Laura and Ian. Thank you, Larry. So thank you. I appreciate that. Laura and Ian. And Laura is your daughter, is that right? If I got that right? I know it's in my text from you. I'm sorry. That's embarrassing to have to ask that. All right, again. But Larry's probably going to answer my question in just a minute. Laura and Ian. I love the picture, by the way, of them. All right, thanks, y'all. Bye-bye.